Edward VI died on July 6, 1553 at Greenwich after battling for his health unsuccessfully for several months. His death was kept a secret for 3 days to make Lady Jane Grey the new queen. During this time, Edward's body was embalmed and sealed in a coffin made out of lead, and then nothing happened. The new queen only ruled for 9 days before she was replaced by Edward's half-sister Mary. These events overshadowed the problem the new queen had to solve with the body of her deceased brother. Mary faced a severe dilemma here. She was determined to lead England back to Catholicism, but had not already done so. According to the law, Edward had to be buried due to the rules of the Prayer Book of 1552, which was for him the most important achievement of his reign. It was written by Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, who was later burned by Mary. The cleric was willing to have a ceremony for Edward according to the new rules, but couldn't do so without Mary's permission. As the Queen, she was the new head of the Church of England, that is why she had to say yes. And Mary had originally decided to follow the old Catholic liturgy. Intense negotiations ensued between the camp of the new queen around her trusted counselor, Bishop Stephen Gardiner, and her ministers, who for the most part had held positions in the previous administrations as well. The people in Mary's circle of trust had little to no experience in governing. That is why the new queen couldn't just replace the ministers altogether. Prime example was William Lord Page, who started his political career at court as secretary of Anne of Cleves. Before that, he was on several diplomatic missions for Henry VIII. He stayed in the services of the crown until 1558. The ministers warned her that one of her first acts as new queen was not only unlawful, but also was going against Edward's explicit wishes and would anger a good part of her subjects. This didn't change Mary's mind. Even the imperial ambassadors at the royal court started to get a little bit worried and feared Mary's way would lead straight to violence. Especially London wouldn't be safe, they wrote home. The Holy Roman Emperor, Charles V, who was Mary's cousin, intervened himself. He wrote to the new queen that there should be a compromise. It was his ambassador, Simon Renard, that came up with the solution. Edward would be buried according to the rules of the Book of Common Prayer. Basically, the ceremony would be similar to the one of Henry VIII, but Mary wouldn't participate. She didn't have to, it was in protocol anyway. She would have a Catholic ceremony for her brother at another place. She chose the Tower of London. She also ordered 3 days of Catholic requiem masses for his soul. Edward's other half-sister Elizabeth wasn't allowed to visit either ceremony. We have a letter from one ambassador to Charles about the compromise. You can see it on the screen. Mary mentioned the negotiations in a personal letter to Charles as well, but it was only part of one sentence. You can see it here. Edward's body was transferred to Westminster Abbey on August 7th. The funeral took place 1 day later. The dead king was buried in the Lady Chapel. The merchant tailor Henry Machen was present and recorded the event in his diaries. I will read just a few lines for you since the text is quite long, but feel free to pause the video if you want to read all of it. The source citation is in the description. At his burying was the greatest moan made for him of his death as ever was heard or seen, both of all sorts of people weeping and lamenting, and first of all went a great company of children in their surplices and clerks singing. Edward's grave was unmarked for the longest time. A monument was planned but not finished for a really long time, since the architects had a huge problem to come up with a worthy solution that would fit into the narrow space of the cramped chapel. The grave was opened one time in the 19th century. Historian and priest Dean Stanley saw the coffin and reported the Latin inscription. In English it says, "Edward VI, by the grace of God, King of England, France and Ireland, Defender of the faith and on earth under Christ, Supreme Head of the Churches of England and Ireland, and he migrated from this life on the 6th day of July in the evening at the 8th hour in the year of our Lord 1553, and in the 7th year of his reign, and in the 16th year of his age. In 1966, a memorial stone was placed to mark Edward's grave. It says, "In memory of King Edward VI, buried in this chapel, this stone was placed here by Christ's Hospital in thanksgiving for their founder,